There's been a whirlwind of activity coming out of Philadelphia, and if you're an Eagles fan, this is the kind of day that makes you sit up and lock in. The front office has been moving with urgency, and it's not just about tweaking the roster. It feels like they're planting seed for something bigger. Howie Roseman and company were not playing around today. 15 players officially added to the practice squad, a surprise name pulled off waivers, and a new offensive lineman added to the active roster. That's a flurry of moves that says one thing loud and clear. The Eagles aren't just getting ready for Week 1. They're building for a long season and possibly a long playoff push. But before we dive deep into the personnel side, let's acknowledge how serious this coaching staff and front office are about building out depth. These practice squad spots matter. They're not just for guys hanging around hoping for a shot. They're chess pieces, developmental opportunities, potential emergency contributors, and sometimes even future stars. And with the NFL allowing 16 players on each team's practice squad, every one of those spots is a tool to help manage injuries, fatigue, or even scheme-specific matchups during the grind of the regular season. Now let's talk about those 15 signings. Some were expected, some are eyebrow-raising, and one or two could turn into key names later this year. One of the more surprising names to pop up was linebacker Chance Campbell. This is a guy who just got to Philly about a week ago, and yet here he is, sticking on the practice squad. The connection with linebackers coach Bobby King from their shared time in Tennessee probably gave him a leg up, but even so, it's clear the coaching staff saw enough in a short window to want to keep him around. He hasn't played in a regular season game since back in 2023, but maybe the special teams value and the familiarity with the system bought him some extra time to prove himself. Another name worth diving into is wide receiver Elijah Cooks. He was having a really impressive training camp before a shoulder injury slowed his momentum during the preseason opener. After he came back, it looked like he was still working his way back to full form, but the decision to keep him signals that the team hasn't forgotten what they saw early on. Big body, reliable hands, and someone who just seems to find ways to make plays. He'll turn 27 in October, which makes his long-term upside a little limited, but in terms of a plug-and-play option for wide receiver depth, that's someone you want in the building. Let's not gloss over the addition of Audric Estime. This one caught some people off guard. 21 years old, a fifth-round pick by the Denver Broncos in the 2024 NFL Draft, and now he's RB4 in Philly behind Saquon Barkley, Will Shipley, and A.J. Dillon. What makes him interesting isn't just the pedigree, it's who evaluated him. Anytime Sean Payton puts his stamp on an offensive player, you have to take notice. Estime's arrival bumps out Montrell Johnson, who hasn't landed with another team yet. Some fans thought Johnson might stick over Dillon, but the Eagles clearly had a different plan in mind. And then there's the curious case of Kenyon Green, a former top 15 pick in 2022, brought in through that trade involving C.J. Gardner-Johnson. That trade hasn't exactly aged well for Philly, especially considering Green's struggles with both health and performance during the summer. But he's still just 24 years old, and now he's under the tutelage of Jeff Stoutland. If there's one coach in the NFL who can pull potential out of struggling offensive linemen, it's Stout. So while the trade didn't pay off right away, there's still a chance Green finds his groove in Midnight Green. Tight end E.J. Jenkins slides in behind Dallas Goedert, Grant Calcaterra, and Keelan Grant's son. And in a season where tight end depth could make or break a game plan, Jenkins may end up being more important than people realize. If one of those top three guys goes down, he's probably the next man up. Same goes for Brennan Johnson at corner. He had some really promising flashes in the slot during the preseason, and with the Eagles still figuring out their ideal depth at cornerback, keeping him around was a smart move. One of the more familiar faces returning is Patrick Johnson. This is a guy who's been productive during the preseason and whom many thought might get scooped up by another team looking for pass rush help. But he sticks with Philly, and honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up on the active roster pretty early in the season. He just has that feel of a guy who refuses to go away. Every preseason, he flashes. Every camp, he's making noise. And now, he's right on the doorstep again. Cam Latu comes in as a tight end who, quite frankly, hasn't impressed much as a pass catcher. But his value on special teams can't be overstated. Not every guy on the practice squad needs to be a future starter. Some are specialists, and Ladu falls squarely into that category. He can carve out a role there and contribute in the ways that don't always show up in the stat sheet. Then there's Terrace Marshall. This one drew some comparisons to a quad-A player in baseball, a guy who might not be a consistent NFL contributor, but who can step in during an emergency and be serviceable. That's the Paris Campbell role from last year, and Marshall fits the mold. You're not planning your season around him, but if he's called upon, you know what you're getting. It's also great to see quarterback Kyle McCord back in the fold. He passed through waivers and now rejoins the team as QB4. He's got the tools, big arm, good poise, but he's still raw. Let's not skip over Perry Nickerson either. He's a versatile defensive back who can play inside and outside. That kind of flexibility is gold, especially when the season starts and injuries start piling up. He had a solid training camp and good moments in the preseason, and keeping him close by is a smart insurance policy. Holland Pierce, the offensive tackle from Trenton, New Jersey, is another long-term project. But again, Jeff Stoutland University is open for enrollment, and if there's even a flicker of upside in Pierce, Stoutland will find it. His frame, his footwork, there's something to work with there, even if it takes time to get him game ready. The Eagles still have one more spot they can fill on the practice squad. That could go to someone like Trevor Keegan or potentially Lake Vakalahi through the International Pathway Program. There are options, and it'll be interesting to see how they use that last slot. Now, aside from all the movement on the practice squad, the Eagles did make one notable waiver claim that has people talking. Willie Lampkin, an interior offensive lineman who plays center, joins the active 53-man roster. And this move just screams Philadelphia. Lampkin is undersized, listed around 279 pounds, but man, he can move. Watching his preseason tape, the quickness, the leverage, the intensity, it all pops. He has a wrestling background, and you can see it in the way he anchors and uses his hands. That wrestling technique translates beautifully to offensive line play. He stays low, gets under pads, and finishes blocks with authority. We are now just days away from the season opener at Lincoln Financial Field. Eagles versus Cowboys, under the lights, kicking off what could be a very special year. And the way this roster is being shaped right now, it's clear this team isn't just focused on starting strong. They're building the foundation for a long, deep run. The buzz around the Eagles' front office doesn't stop at the practice squad or a single surprise waiver claim. This is an organization that's not just reacting to roster needs. They're forecasting them. They're reading the calendar, looking at the schedule, and already preparing for the physical, emotional, and strategic demands of a full NFL season. And it shows with every decision they're making right now. Depth isn't just about surviving injuries. It's about creating internal competition, maximizing development opportunities, and keeping the standard high from week 1 all the way to January, and possibly February. One thing that really stands out is how intentional the Eagles are with player archetypes. They're not just collecting random talent. They're targeting specific skill sets that match their vision. Take Willie Lampkin, for example. That's not a coincidence or a gamble. That's a calculated move based on scheme fit, athletic profile, and coaching philosophy. They want guys who move well, who play angry, who show polish even as rookies. Lampkin checks every one of those boxes. He's undersized by NFL standards, sure, but in Philly's offense, that can be an advantage. Their zone concepts require linemen who can pull, who can climb to the second level, and who can adjust on the fly. It's no secret the team is looking to replicate some of what made Jason Kelce so special. Not necessarily clone him, but continue that legacy of mobility and intelligence at the center position. Lampkin brings that DNA. What's also really exciting is that the Eagles coaching staff, especially Jeff Stoutland, have a long history of taking raw linemen and refining them into legitimate starters. You go down a list of guys who came into Philly as unknowns and left as core pieces or high-level contributors, and it's clear Stoutland doesn't just coach technique. He builds confidence. He builds players. So the idea of a guy like Lampkin getting to develop under his watch, that's an opportunity you can't put a price on. And the way they're using the practice squad reflects that dual focus. It's not just about emergency replacements. It's about grooming the next wave. Players like Kyle McCord, who is QB for right now, aren't expected to see the field this year. But the coaching staff is investing in his development anyway. He's not here by accident. They see something in him, a big arm, poise under pressure, and a chip on his shoulder. All traits that can be molded. And if you can develop a quality quarterback in-house, even if he doesn't start for you, that's massive value, either as a trade chip or as insurance in a league that eats up quarterbacks every season. The same goes for someone like Elijah Cooks. Injuries held him back during the preseason, but the Eagles aren't giving up on him. He showed too much in camp to be discarded over a minor setback. And that speaks to how much weight this coaching staff puts on practice performance. They're watching every rep, every drill, and they're tracking growth, not just results. That's why guys like Patrick Johnson and Brennan Johnson are still around. They've shown progression. They've flashed. And the team wants to see what happens when you keep them in the system a little longer. Another intriguing layer to all this is the culture. It's clear the Eagles are building something that goes beyond talent. You can feel in the way these players talk about each other, how they celebrate each other's success, and how hard they fight to stay in Philly. When a guy like Eli Ricks chooses to return to the practice squad instead of looking for more opportunity elsewhere, that says a lot about the environment. That's a credit to Nick Sirianni and the leadership in the locker room. Players want to be part of this. Speaking of health, the injury updates this week were quietly some of the best news to come out of camp. A.J. Brown returning to practice is huge. You want your number one receiver firing on all cylinders by the time week 1 rolls around, especially with a big game looming against the Cowboys. Brown is the kind of player who opens everything up for this offense. He draws coverage, creates space for others, and brings that physical edge that sets the tone for the wide receiver room. Landon Dickerson being back is also a big sigh of relief. Interior offensive line depth took a hit this offseason, and with Jason Kelce retired, Dickerson's role as a leader and communicator is more important than ever. Getting him back in the mix helps stabilize everything from protection schemes to run blocking. He's physical, he's smart, and he plays with a nastiness that embodies Eagles football. And then there's Tanner McKee. He had a great camp before the finger injury and was pushing hard for that QB2 spot. Now that he's healthy again, the team can go into week 1 with confidence in their quarterback depth chart. Jalen Hurts is the guy, of course. But McKee has shown enough poise and command to be trusted if something goes wrong. And let's not overlook Sam Howell either. As the emergency third-string option, he brings valuable experience and a very different skill set. That's a luxury most teams don't have. There's also a quiet confidence in the way this team operates now. They don't panic. They don't make reactionary moves. They build with purpose. That's a big reason why even seemingly minor moves, like claiming Willie Lampkin or keeping Audric Estime, feel impactful. They're not just names on a list. They're potential contributors. They're future weapons. And this front office, especially with Howie Roseman at the helm, has earned the benefit of the doubt when it comes to roster building. Their track record speaks for itself. And let's not forget the tone being set from the top down. Nick Sirianni is not just a motivator. He's a teacher. He gets guys to buy in. He fosters accountability. And more importantly, he's created an environment where players want to grow, where they want to compete. That matters in the NFL. So now the countdown is on. 8 days until the lights come on at Lincoln Financial Field, and the season kicks off against Dallas. And while the Cowboys bring their own level of hype, the Eagles are walking into that game with a quiet confidence. This team has been built for moments like this. They've weathered the offseason, they've answered questions in camp, and now they're finalizing the roster with purpose and precision. From top to bottom, this is a team that looks ready. The stars are aligned. The youth is promising. The veterans are locked in. And the coaching staff has options everywhere. That's what separates contenders from pretenders. It's not just about your starting 11. It's about the guys who come in when things get tough. It's about the practice squad players who get elevated mid-season and make game-changing plays. It's about the rookies who take a leap in December. The Eagles have that infrastructure. They've earned that depth. And now, all eyes are on what comes next. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our Philadelphia Eagles. And don't be shy. Share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Whispers have been circulating throughout the NFL landscape for weeks, but the rumors finally solidified into reality as the Philadelphia Eagles officially presented Myles Garrett as their newest defensive cornerstone. The trade with the Cleveland Browns has sent shockwaves through football circles, leaving fans, analysts, and insiders buzzing with speculation about what this move could mean for the balance of power in the league. Garrett, widely regarded as one of the most dominant defensive ends of his generation, brings an unparalleled combination of speed, power, and football intelligence to the Eagles' front line, instantly transforming their pass rush potential. The presentation ceremony, attended by media representatives, fans, and team executives, seemed almost ceremonial in its gravitas, underscoring the significance of this acquisition. Conversations in locker rooms across the league, from New York to Los Angeles, have inevitably turned toward Philadelphia, with analysts debating whether Garrett's arrival signals a championship push or a longer-term rebuilding strategy anchored by generational talent. Observers note that the Eagles' front office demonstrated remarkable decisiveness in completing this trade, signaling to the league that Philadelphia is committed to aggressive moves to secure elite talent, a statement likely designed to reverberate beyond just the immediate impact on the roster. Meanwhile, social media channels have exploded with reactions ranging from enthusiastic approval to cautious skepticism about how Garrett will adapt to a new defensive scheme. The dynamics of the Browns-Eagles trade itself have become fodder for ongoing speculation and rumor, with fans dissecting every detail from contract clauses to draft pick exchanges, trying to understand the full implications for both franchises. Myles Garrett's arrival in Philadelphia is particularly intriguing because it alters the Eagles' defensive identity almost overnight, injecting a level of star power and experience that has been absent at critical moments in past seasons. Analysts have suggested that pairing Garrett with the Eagles' existing defensive talent could create a front seven capable of pressuring quarterbacks at a historically high rate, potentially forcing opposing offenses to rethink their strategies entirely. Rumors about potential locker room chemistry, leadership roles, and Garrett's influence on younger players have also gained traction, with insiders speculating on whether his presence will inspire a new level of performance or introduce unforeseen challenges. Fans in Cleveland are equally vocal, debating whether the assets received in exchange will sufficiently compensate for losing a talent of Garrett's caliber, while Philadelphia supporters are basking in the excitement of seeing a superstar in their colors. The buzz surrounding this transaction is relentless, suggesting that its ramifications will be dissected by commentators and fans alike for months to come. Garrett's debut with the Eagles has become one of the most anticipated storylines of the offseason, fueling endless speculation about how quickly he can integrate into the team's defensive system and make a tangible impact on the field. Observers have also raised questions about Garrett's potential leadership role, suggesting that his work ethic, intensity, and experience in high-pressure situations could elevate the entire defensive unit, shaping not only on-field performance, but also locker room culture. Rumors have even extended to the opposing teams, with chatter indicating that quarterbacks and offensive coordinators are already strategizing ways to counteract a player who has repeatedly proven capable of dominating the line of scrimmage. Analysts are particularly intrigued by the possible impact on Philadelphia's defensive rankings, predicting improvements in sack totals, quarterback pressures, and run defense metrics. The intrigue surrounding Garrett's integration fuels a broader conversation about how transformative a single elite talent can be within a team framework, leaving pundits speculating on both immediate effects and long-term consequences for the Eagles' competitive trajectory. The speculation surrounding the trade has also ignited discussions about its broader implications on league-wide strategies, with whispers suggesting that the Eagles' move could inspire other franchises to pursue similarly bold acquisitions in the offseason. Myles Garrett's presence not only enhances Philadelphia's defensive capabilities, but also sends a message to competitors that the team is willing to invest heavily in elite talent to achieve championship aspirations. Inside sources indicate that team executives across the NFL are closely monitoring the trade's impact on salary cap flexibility, roster construction, and draft strategies, anticipating a ripple effect that could reshape offseason priorities. Fans and media pundits alike are engaged in animated discussions about potential responses from other powerhouse teams, speculating whether rival defenses will seek to counterbalance Garrett's arrival with strategic signings or trades of their own. The constant buzz around this transaction demonstrates that, beyond its tangible on-field implications, Garrett's move represents a cultural shift, setting off conversations about strategy, dominance, and ambition that extend far beyond Philadelphia. Finally, the public's fascination with Garrett's arrival reflects a broader hunger for drama and intrigue in professional football, turning what might have been a routine trade into a narrative that captivates fans, media, and insiders alike. Speculation continues regarding his debut game, expected matchups, and potential statistical achievements, with pundits and fans alike constructing hypothetical scenarios that range from dominant performances to unexpected challenges. The ripple effect on team dynamics, both on the field and within the locker room, remains a central point of discussion, with whispers of leadership shifts, mentorship opportunities, and the psychological influence of adding a generational talent circulating widely. Social media commentary, fan forums, and sports talk shows have collectively amplified the narrative, generating a level of excitement that seems disproportionate even for the NFL's high-profile transactions. Analysts continue to debate the strategic implications for Philadelphia, considering how Garrett's presence may alter game plans, defensive alignments, and rotational strategies across the entire season. Rumors have also extended to rival teams, whose coaching staffs are reportedly devising countermeasures in response to the Eagles' newfound defensive strength. Inside chatter emphasizes that Garrett's influence may transcend the traditional metrics of sacks and pressures, affecting morale, confidence, and the broader competitive environment. Ultimately, the combination of elite talent acquisition, strategic ambition, and the relentless rumor mill has created a narrative surrounding Myles Garrett's move to the Eagles that will dominate sports conversations, fueling anticipation, speculation, and excitement that shows no signs of slowing, reinforcing the notion that in professional football, perception, buzz, and on-field impact are inextricably intertwined. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.